Hey everyone, it's Alan Brochstein coming to you from Houston, Texas. And if you're listening to this, you're probably interested in cannabis stocks. I am. They're so bad though. I don't think they'll always be bad. And if you don't either, you might consider joining or rejoining 420 Investor, which goes live to the public on Monday, May 15th. Remember, I used to be at Badzinga, but I left them. And I'm very excited to be at Seeking Alpha, where I've been a contributor since 2007 for a long time. I've been following the cannabis sector since 2013, more than 10 years it's been. So if you're listening to this, you care about cannabis stocks, and let me just tell you how bad they were this week. So first of all, there was some data on consumption, and it wasn't great. It wasn't that important either, but we heard from Illinois, and if you recall, I think I shared last week how the adult use did, which is the larger part of the market, but the medical came out, and so I can tell you now that the entire cannabis sales of 160 million were down 2% sequentially and from a year ago. Now, being down 2% sequentially in April with one less day doesn't sound like a big deal, but I beg to differ. April has 420 in it, so it was worse than expected, I would think. I don't ever see any forecasts of those numbers, by the way. Michigan, which is a bigger state, reported sales in April of 246 million. That was up 26% from a year ago, but it was down 2% sequentially. Same thing. I'll just say, I don't know all the seasonals. There hasn't been enough time, and I'm not a seasonal expert either. But I would think April, despite having one less day, would see more demand. Now, in Michigan, there was good news. The prices have been plunging for flower, and this was the third straight month of a slight increase, and the year-over-year decline dropped a lot. If you care about what I say and don't want to subscribe, I give some great information at Seeking Alpha, and this week they published me on Sunday. I usually get published on Monday, but I wrote an article called Forward Estimates Fall Sharply for Curaleaf. And at the beginning of the year, I wrote a piece about how expensive Curaleaf was. It's down a lot since then, way more than most cannabis stocks. And the part I shared in this article that's informative, I don't think most investors out there, and who are most investors? They're folks like you and me. Well, not like me, because I have access to the information, but they're regular people. I do consider myself a regular person. And they don't have access to the information that I shared, which is that the forward estimates came down a lot for Curaleaf. Okay, so I cover 28 stocks on my focus list, and because we're in the peak of earnings season, it concludes Monday really, this week certainly, ahead certainly. I had a lot of news, mainly because of earnings reports, so let me just go through this very quickly. I'm not going to give you as much information as I might otherwise. So Ascend had a pretty good quarter, and I wrote about that. Air restructured their 2 acquisition payouts, and the stock did really well. And Cronos Group reported a Q1 that was below expectations on revenue, but it did better than projected on the adjusted EBITDA. GrowGen reported what I thought was a pretty weak quarter, but it maintained its outlook for 2023. Hydrofarm was just below the revenue estimate for quarter 1. IIPR had a solid Q1, and revenue grew 18%. And to me, the best part of it was the AFFO, or adjusted funds from operations, were above what was expected at $2.25 per share. Jushi had a bad quarter on revenue, but a pretty decent quarter on adjusted EBITDA. Lowell had a pretty rough Q1. And I'll just tell you, the secret to understanding that company is to analyze whether or not that deal will go through that would wipe out their convertible debt. If that happens, the stock is very cheap, in my opinion. MAPS, which is WM Technology, reported a pretty decent quarter, and the stock did well last week. It was up 10 points more than than the index, and it was up more than the S&P 500. It rose 2% instead of falling 8% like cannabis stocks, as measured by the new Cannabis Ventures Global Cannabis Stock Index, which I'll talk about in a moment. Refi, which has been my favorite REIT, it's a mortgage REIT, they reported a pretty decent quarter. SHFS triggered huge trading, unseen in its history, after it reported a publicly traded company's bank unit in New York has signed an agreement with it. Now, I didn't think that was good news right now. It could become good news. I don't understand why so many people traded that stock. It went way up. It was up about 50% in the pre-market and ended the week at a new low. That's one that I focus on. I don't think that many people focus on that one. I think it's an interesting story. Trueleaf had a terrible quarter. And usually at New Cannabis Ventures, we'll have a quarter like a title like Trueleaf Q1 revenue falls X% sequentially. No, I said on this one, Trueleaf had a worse than expected outcome. I said literally, I have it right here. I said literally, Trueleaf Q1 results were behind analyst estimates. That is so unlike us at New Cannabis Ventures, but wow, was I right. And I really like Trueleaf. I wrote about it earlier this year when it was beaten up, and it's more beaten up now. And I think the world was too much in love with the stock when it was in the 50s, but below 5, they hate it too much. Tilray announced some news about their Soleil brand in infused cannabis teas. Terracin reported a Q1 that was in line with the expectations. Urban Grow had a horrible quarter and crashed. Village Farms reported its Q1, which looked okay from the Canadian cannabis perspective, but there's a lot more to that company. And then finally, Verano reported a revenue beat, but their adjusted EBITDA missed. And I have a very strong view on that stock. If you subscribe, I'll lay it out for you. So this week was a terrible week. It followed a great week for the cannabis market. The New Cannabis Ventures Global Cannabis Stock Index fell 7.9% this week to 886, a penny above the all-time closing low and 9 cents above the all-time intraday low. It's down now 19.1% year to date. Maybe that's caused by the S&P 500. Isn't that down? No. The S&P 500 fell this week 0.3%. That's not 7.9, but it's up 7.4%. If you do that math, we're the difference between the cannabis sector and the S&P 500 is almost 20%. Huge. And after the horrible 2022, most people wouldn't have been expecting this. I have been very loud and will continue to be loud about the cautionary short term for the cannabis sector. This week, people decided that safe banking is not a big deal, and they crashed it. So what about my model portfolios? So I launched them both on 12/31, and the Global Cannabis Stock Index, the Global Cannabis Stock Index model portfolio, which is what? Trying to beat the Global Cannabis Stock Index. It got pounded this week. It was down more than the market, 10.3%. But year to date, it's down 16.9%, which is better than the market. I can't make miracles. I can do, I have rules that I have to follow, and I stay fully invested unless there's really a good reason, like when Jeff Sessions was going crazy. But so I'm being fully invested. It's hard to make money in cannabis stocks right now, but I am beating the index, which I try to do. And then the other one that I launched beat the American Cannabis Operator Index. It was down 10.5% this week. The other thing I try to do is to beat MSOS, a ETF that I'm very critical of. You can read my work on that if you don't know why. And that thing fell 15.1% this week. The index itself was down more than my model portfolio. Year to date, my model portfolio is down. I think this is wrong. I didn't update it properly. Yeah, I need to update that. I don't know if I can edit it. I will. Year to date, I'm down a lot, and I'm down a lot more than the index, but I'm down less than MSOS, so I am achieving that second goal. The final thing I like to do on these videos is to go over the calendar for next week. And Monday is a very busy day. I'm just going to leave it to you to look at the piece that I wrote that I have a link to in the summary of this video to see all the companies that are reporting on Monday, the last day to not be late for many companies. On Tuesday, Air Wellness reports before the open, and Delta 9 and Indiva host their calls during trading hours. And then on Wednesday, the big boy or girl, the big person, not really a person, the big company, Curaleaf reports its Q1 and hosts a call on Wednesday. So with that, I want to wish you the best, and you'll hear from me again. I don't have the information to give you right now, but in the summary, you can find me on Seeking Alpha, and if you follow me, then I will directly send you a message on Monday about joining my service. And for now, the price is going to be discounted to where I'm taking the price. I'm not sure when I'm going to make that move, by the way. If I were really a marketing genius, I'd say, you have 1 week or the price is going up. But no, the truth is, the cannabis market sucks right now. So if it stays sucky, no, I'm not going to raise the price. But the price is going to be $800 a year, which I think is a pretty good deal, actually, for all the work that I do. And but for now, you can get it for $599 a year, which was my price a year ago. I mean, at year end. And it's been that price for a long time. And you can get that price too. And if you want to wait until the cannabis market is a buy, well, you're going to pay more for the service at that point. And two, more importantly, you won't hear from me that the cannabis market is a buy when I think it is a buy. Right now, if you're a long-term investor, it's a buy, but I'm very cautious. And I tell people all the time, don't count on big gains right away. And if there are big gains, I warn them that they're not going to remain. So that's it. Y'all have a great week. Take care.